Did you like the intro?
What the program that you plug in some clips and whatever, what AI generated program did you use to make that?
I didn't. I used a friend. He actually creates WWE intro stuff. So there's a little bit of a cross section for you.
Well, hold on. Does your friend work for Def Rebel?
I don't know who he works for. Do you know his name?
No, well then the people, the production company that does all the WWE themes, the music at least is called Def Rebel, and they're awful.
No, I do not have that. No.
Okay.
Nope. This is my friend Cookies who does this stuff. And he's done work with me before. He helped design some of the Pater branding. But there's an intro video.
I'm not saying it was bad. I'm just saying that you could. There are a lot of intro maker type softwares where you just here's some clips and here's some words and put together something and make some music that can't get you a copyright strike on YouTube, and there you go.
Can't get you slammed. No, this was so Tribe, who works with me over at Pater, actually made the music. That was actually his beat and his music that he put together specifically for Pater. And then Cookies over on Twitter, he helped me put together the video. So we're still working through the video. There's still some things that I want to add, but
Tribe and Cookies, what kind of names are these?
Tribe and Cookies, baby. Tribe Cookies. Well, if you'd like to know his actual name, is Jericho and Justin. We can call them by their actual names, I guess, but it doesn't fucking matter. This is Mondays with McCool. I haven't even said that yet. My name is James McCool. I'm the owner of PaterDFS.com, and this is Mondays with McCool, where we're going to be doing a slate review of week 16 NFL DFS. I am joined, as usual, by Mr. Jordan Cooper, Mr. Blender. How are you doing today, sir?
Fine, broke even.
Oh, you didn't make money this week?
No, lost on DraftKings, lost money on DraftKings, made money on FanDuel. Would have made money at I went the right way in a 2v2 decision that I went the wrong way with DraftKings. FanDuel, my FanDuel team was going to be my FanDuel team. It cashed in all my 50-50s and all that stuff, so that was fine. And then GPP on DraftKings, I don't think I returned anything because I didn't play anyone good. Apparently, I just said, are you going to give me 30 points? And I said, I just now waved all the people that I just said, no. Do I want to play any Brian Thomas Jr.? No, I don't want that. Right? Do I want to play any Bears stacks? No, of course not. Who wants to play Bears stacks? Are you kidding me? Right? And then yeah, it's kind of hard to make money when you're sitting there with 10 points in. It's not like my lineups were that bad. It's just that you can't win with that. This slate, Jahmyr Gibbs was 54% owned, got 28.4, and you didn't even need him. If you didn't have him, there were other people that you could have played that obviously you take his 28.4 points, but if you didn't score 70 points at running back this week, then you were dead. Yeah. So, most of my lineups, had that, but when you play a 10% owned running back that should have been 30% owned and he only gets 14 points, then there you go, you're done. You can't win, right? You don't have Jonathan Taylor, you don't have three wide receivers that put up 30 points. You don't have the Falcons defense at 3,700. Well, you're not making the cash line.
Yeah, I had actually did have a 2v2. I didn't even check on this 2v2 how bad this hurt me, but I had a 2v2 that I made about 30 minutes before lock. As I was pontificating. You should never decide this didn't actually hurt me all that bad. But I did have a 2v2 that I made. I went from Jonathan Taylor with Falcons defense to Jahmyr Gibbs with the Panthers defense. Which hurt quite a bit. It was 40, almost 50 points or something. And I still would not have cashed with that because that was in my Miami stack, which ended up being awful. So
now my 2v2 in DraftKings cash. going into like an hour before game time, the 2v2 on DraftKings, because I had Michael Penix, I had Gibbs, Connor, Chase Brown, Brenton Strange at tight end, the Raiders defense, Keenan Allen, and then I had Malik Neighbors and DK Metcalf.
Yep.
Malik Neighbors' volume at 6,100 he's underpriced for that volume. Key word, volume. And Metcalf for his ceiling is too cheap at 5,500. But the thing is that I looked at that lineup and I said, well, I'm playing a guy on the Giants. Like, it doesn't matter what his target share is. I'm playing a guy on the Giants. That, sure, he'll get 14 targets and maybe, who knows? Who knows how long the offense is out on the field? Who knows how efficient he's going to be? Who knows if he'll even score a touchdown? Then DK Metcalf, it's like, okay, he's a guy that can catch a 60-yard touchdown. He's also a guy that may only get 5 targets. I mean, you don't know with him. So instead of playing those two, I played Juwan Jennings and Jacoby Myers.
Ah, of course you did. Yep. Okay.
Because I looked and I go, okay, Raiders are favored and the 49ers are favored. They have the 2 or 3 point higher team totals. And they're probably, with their target share is their target share, right? And apparently it's not.
No. Yeah, apparently not.
apparently I would have been better off the other way. It's not like Neighbors and Metcalf both scored like 14, but it's much better than Jennings and Myers 7 each. So it's like that extra 14 points, I would have cashed everywhere on DraftKings. But I did play a lot of DK Metcalf in GPP, and I played another guy in GPP that I thought maybe would be more popular based on projections, and apparently tons of people waived it, and I refused to waive it. I just said that we're going to go with a longer term sample with this guy, and also the fact that the team really doesn't have any running backs anymore. And I played Deebo Samuel. I think I had 7 GPP lineups. I played him in 4 out of 7 GPP lineups at 5,200, and he ended up coming in like 7.5% owned in the millie. But if you ran like projections, like Deebo Samuel was a cash play. I mean, he was showing up in optimal lineups, so that's why I was confused on like whether or not he was going to be much higher owned than I expected in GPP. But apparently he wasn't 7%. So I'm happy with that. This is same for Metcalf. Metcalf wasn't that owned. I mean, Metcalf was what 12%. I mean, that's fine, right? Much better than the Bears wide receivers. I mean, that I did. Brian Thomas came in a little under than I thought. I would have played more of him. I would have played him at all if I knew he was just going to be 15% owned rather than 20 to 25% owned. But I have no problem not playing the Caleb Williams lineups because I went in thinking either they're going to be way over owned or way under owned, and they ended up being way over owned, and they still got there, so it didn't matter, right? So like I played mostly. I played Burrow stacks. I played Geno stacks. I played. Of course, Kyler Murray lineup. As at some point, Kyler Murray stacks. Either I'm going to win a lot of money, James. Or I'm going to be DMing you at some point asking if I could stay at your place because I'm broke. It's one of the two. Eventually it happens, right?
Look, honestly, there are worse things that could happen than you coming to stay with me and Margaret. Love you and your wife. First off, Mr. Kevin Wise, what's going on? We're doing Mondays with McCool. What are you doing? How are you doing today? Atlanta defense. I'm trying to be better about answering comments and stuff. Atlanta defense bailed out a lot of people. Were they high owned?
No. But they had 25 fantasy points. So yeah, if you I mean,
Well, all
Atlanta
I'm saying
scored
is I don't
25,
know.
Cincinnati scored 18, Buffalo scored 14, and everyone else scored in single digits. So you kind
I
of
would
needed
just
one.
say,
But that's welcome to NFL DFS. You have one position that is basically like rolling a 20-sided die, and if you have the right one, there you go.
yeah. Well, I would just say that I wouldn't say it bailed out a lot of people. 4% of people is not a lot of people, but it did
Well, in
bail
the
out
grand
some
scheme of
people.
things, 4% of a lot is a lot.
Okay, sure, fine, relatively a lot. They need to get rid of defense. I mean, the game would be better if it was super flex. I agree with that. I think that would be a sick version of NFL. Maybe they'll do it next year, but I doubt it because DraftKings doesn't care about their product very much anymore. I focused a lot. So I thought that the two best game environments were going to be Miami, San Francisco, and Minnesota, Seattle. I was pretty much right about Minnesota, Seattle. That was a great game environment. There were a lot of fantasy points scored in that one. I was not right about Miami, San Francisco. That game sucked. I also did really like the Detroit-Chicago game environment. I thought that was good. But I did say on the Slate Talk with Sheets that I thought the Chicago ownership would bump up, and that's why I wasn't super into it. I thought it was fine. I thought that both those offenses would be able to push each other. Detroit has like 15 guys on IR on their defense. Like it makes sense that we would go to Chicago. I would not have been happy if I would have flipped the cards and seen that Keenan Allen was 19% owned instead of the 9% owned that I projected, though. And I'm almost sure that if I would have known that he was 19% owned, he would have looked like a pretty significantly negative value in the contest sims.
If you take a look at the Millie, James, the highest stack. See, this is exactly how I approach playing GPPs.
Sure.
And it's not results oriented. That Caleb Williams plus DJ Moore plus Keenan Allen plus Jahmyr Gibbs, the 3+1, 1.4% of the field in the Millie. And the Millie has, if we just go by the Millie has 132, 352 in entries.
Yeah.
So that means that we multiply that by 0.14.
You got this. Yep.
That means that line, that exact combination was in a little over 1,850 lineups, which means that's half your lineup.
Right.
Right. And you're constrained by certain, salaries that if you play that lineup, like with all four in there, that you're sharing with, like, the worst one of those lineups, like, doesn't even crack the top 1% in the entire GPP. So you getting all of this right still means that you need to differentiate from 1,850 other people with other. Now, if you add James Conner to that lineup, now he's higher owned. If you add Brenton Strange to that lineup, there's only so many ways you can go once you lock up, especially Gibbs' salary and stuff like this. So you need to find a way to get extremely different if you're going to play all four of these players with 1.4% sounds like a small amount, but it's 1,850 lineups. Now, if you're playing a 200-man contest and this represents like 4 lineups, that's a different story. Right. Now, how much differentiation do you need from 3 other lineups? Not as much as you would need with 1,800 lineups. So this is like that. I'm explaining the main reason why I do not play these types of lineups if I can avoid it, because I'd much rather have a Geno, JSN, Fant lineup with an Aaron Jones bring back. And then you know what I have in that lineup? I have Gibbs. I have all the chalky play. I have the highest projected players in those lineups. And it's like, well, if the stack goes off, I'm good. Right? How many people have that 3+1 in the Millie? Maybe 200 at most. So this is what I mean by in GPPs, and this is what we talk about in theory of DFS, but combinatoric ownership of, yeah, sure, you could look at it and go, oh, DJ Moore is this percent owned and that, and you'd start doing the multiplication, which is not a perfect solution on how to do this, but it's close. And you go, oh, okay, it should only be represented in like 6 lineups. It's like, no, it's not, because so many more people. the ownership of Caleb Williams, like especially in NFL, it's like there aren't going to be that many Caleb Williams naked lineups, right? Caleb Williams means that DJ Moore, and much more likely, 90% likely that DJ Moore or Keenan Allen is going to be in that lineup also. And it's also half as likely is that because Gibbs is 54% owned, that Gibbs, especially being that it's been part of the game, is also going to be part of that lineup. So you have to, it's not just multiplying all four independently. When the players are independent of each other and have no salary or position dynamics, then NBA, it makes a little bit more sense.
Mm-hmm.
But in NFL, you can't go by that. So that, I mean, of course, I'm talking about this stack being that it actually was the stack that you pretty much you kind of needed. That was the most profitable stack on the slate results wise. But for all the people that were watching, last week on my shows, and I'm like I think these Bears receivers are going to be overowned, and that's going to bump up Caleb Williams' ownership. And the Bears are just not a good team, and there's just so many more ways for the Bears to just face plant here at higher ownership that I'm going to take a shot elsewhere. But I didn't say they were a bad stack. I just said no, they're up there. In Roto Grinder Sims, they were 9% optimal. They were up there.
Mm-hmm.
But to be 9% optimal and be this owned, like I'll play Geno Smith at 5.5% optimal, but like absurdly less owned. I'll play Joe Burrow at similar. I'll play Kyler Murray because I'm a glutton for punishment, no matter what the optimal rate is or whatever.
Yeah, I thought that one of the things with that as well is when you added Brendan Strange to that, Brendan Strange is like 33% owned. And this is something that you have to think about not only pre-lock but post-lock as well, is the rest of the salary distribution that you can have along that lineup. It's really, really important in showdown, but also pretty important when you're thinking about it in terms of main slates. So like you had said, when you start with Williams, Gibbs, Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, and Brenton Strange, you have 5 players out of that, right? You can only fit certain players in the rest. It's very likely that you are going to end up with a James Conner at running back 7,100, or you're going to end up with one of the cheaper running backs, somewhere in the $6,100 to $6,300 range. And then you're likely going to end up with another wide receiver that is also highly popular. You end up with kind of this pipeline of possible plays you can end up with in that lineup. That's why I always tell people in showdown, people will be like, oh, well, I have this. I have a cheap player, maybe he's like one of the $1,600 players or something like that. And, oh, well, he's only projecting to be 20% owned. It's like, okay,
That's
sure.
I own.
Well, but 16. So if he's projected to be like 20% owned, that's relatively low owned compared to, let's call it 15% owned. Let's call it.
Well, what you mean is that he's relatively low owned, but the only people playing $1,600 guy over there are playing like 3 of the 4 players that you're playing in the rest. That's the only way you can play those 3 players. So the overlap of that 15% is still with you. Next thing you know, you're like, why is my lineup duped 184 times, even though my player is only 15% owned?
Right, because you represent, of the 15% of people that have that player, you and 10% of the rest of those people all have the same fucking lineup. Like it makes it so you have this pipeline of available players, and then when you look at it, it's one of the reasons why setting your salary cap at 49.5 is so powerful in showdown. Because then if you have that pipeline of available players, but you set the max at 49.5, you avoid 5 or 6 of those players that you can use, and you force yourself to have a less duplicated lineup. Now, I don't suggest that in main slates. That's kind of doing a little bit much in main slates. But you do still have to think about it, and you do still have to think about the way that you put together your lineup. And it's more important, I think, in larger fields, but also when you think about it in small fields, because the field is so much sharper. If you started your lineups with Caleb Williams, Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Brenton Strange, and then you also had Malik Neighbors in that lineup, like it was a really good chance that you ended up on the same players. If you spent 49.7 or more, it was a really good chance you would have been duped. just because like they were all so high owned and they were all such sharp plays that the rest of the players, like it's so easy to just let the players fall into your lap and fill out the rest of your lineup. And you do still have to really think about it. So this was a slate where we did have a whole lot of really high condensed ownership, and some of it I think made a lot of sense. Like I didn't mind Gibbs or Strange or Neighbors or Connor. I didn't even mind really Keenan Allen. I thought Jackson Smith-Njigba was a great play. The one play that I thought was batshit crazy was Michael Penix Jr. I thought that was for 19% of the field to play Michael Penix Jr., I thought was the reason why I wanted to play this slate. How did you look at Michael Penix Jr.?
I mean, Michael Penix Jr. was in the goddamn Millie winning lineup.
Okay, well we can talk about what won the Millie Maker lineup and like how I hope that everyone chases that lineup forever.
No, but I'll be at that point. Michael Penix Jr. at 4,500 with what his mean projection was, didn't need to score a ton of points in order to be optimal. We see this in simulations all the time where even naked quarterbacks, like I'm not even talking about rushing quarterbacks, just cheap quarterbacks in general. If they allow you to get the ceilings in the rest of your lineup, they're typically good unless there are stacks and quarterbacks that go excessively outlier. When we see 50 points from Josh Allen, you're probably going to need it, right? It's the same effect that you see at tight end. So on a lot of slates, tight end scoring is going to be low. So you could see optimal tight ends that score 7-8 points because the highest scoring tight end that had any type of ownership only scored 14.
Sure.
So even though it wasn't the highest at the position, it's just that, spending 2,800 and just getting 7 points is perfectly fine, the key point is the second part. As long as you hit on the 3 30-point wide receivers and the 3 30-point running backs, and the only way to get that is by playing some cheap quarterback. Like that. That is how I viewed Michael Penix. I thought if you were going to play any quarterback naked, probably would be Anthony Richardson at 5,400.
Right.
I think on his own, I think he has a higher ceiling, but I have no problem with Penix. I played him in one lineup, and I didn't play him with Drake London. I played him with Bijan Robinson, and I played Malik Neighbors on the other side. And it's not like I needed Michael. Like I looked at this, I go, I want to play Bijan. I want to play Neighbors, but I also want to play Gibbs, and I also want to play Connor. It's like, how do I do that? Well, I need to play Michael Penix in the quarterback slot. Hope the Falcons-Giants game goes off, and Michael Penix just gives me a respectable 15 or 16 points with Bijan having 30-plus and Neighbors having 30-plus. It's like, that's perfectly fine. It's just when the quarterback is 6,500, you can't get away with 15 points anymore at quarterback. You have to get 20-plus, which means you're most likely stacking with pass catchers. Right? The ones. So I 19% is a bit rich. Yes. Is he overowned? Absolutely. I agree with you. Is it batshit crazy? No, because lineup construction this week at quarterback was not like, dude, there were so many more people that I'd rather that we didn't have a 5K running back that you had to jam in. We didn't have a 3K wide receiver. That was, you got to play Malik Washington. He was available, but it's not like he projected well. So where are you saving salary other than a tight end or defense? You could save it at quarterback because quarterback scoring is flat. So I think it was fine. I think it was fine. If you thought he was only going to be 10% owned, I think it was fine. I think if you have it playing him when a fifth of the field is playing him, then yes, he's overowned. And if you didn't, and then okay, maybe you shouldn't be playing a guy that it's hard to stack with that's that cheap for 20% ownership. But in general, I think it's batshit crazy that Kyler Murray was the second highest owned quarterback, and I thought he would end up being like the 7th highest. I thought Kyler Murray would be lower owned. And he wasn't. And I thought a guy like Geno Smith or Brock Purdy would be, because these are the guys that I played, would be more than 2% owned. Because I played Burrow. I mean, Burrow was 6%. So I played Burrow, Kyler, Geno, Purdy, and Penix in one lineup.
You played all of them in one lineup?
Yeah, all of them in one lineup.
So here,
I played two Geno lineups.
Yeah,
I wanted because I needed more combinations. My main lineup in the $50 red zone was a Burrow lineup, and then I got a 33 and a 27 lineup for Geno, because I wanted to play JSN and I wanted to play Metcalf, and I wanted to play the combinations with Noah Fant, who is like 100 more than Brenton Strange, and I just wanted to play both of those combinations. So I played. I didn't play the Metcalf JSN double wide receiver combination. I just played with the tight end because I thought playing the 37% owned $3,500 guy was not a must.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Then he fumbled the ball. He fumbled the ball, and then he just got banished to the shadow realm.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you're a $3,500 tight end, the coach knows. Do you think coaches will look at the DraftKings salaries of players?
Well, we know. We know that Woody Johnson looks at the Madden ratings. Didn't want Jerry Jeudy because his Madden rating was too low.
You probably also saw that his average price was only like $4,800 or something like that on DraftKings. Like you can't trade high dollar for a $4,800 average wide receiver. So here's my thing with Michael Penix, and with cheap quarterbacks overall. So the biggest crux here was the 19% ownership. That was I agree with you. That the biggest thing here is the 19% ownership. If he was going to be 5 to 7% owned, that's one thing, because I think you can take a shot on that. But one of the things that we want from our cheap players when it comes to utilizing them in a lineup in large field GPPs, and I think that's another crux here. In small field, I thought that Michael Penix was a considerably better play than something like the Millie Maker. Reason being that you don't need the nuts in smaller fields. You can get away with having a slightly lower ceiling from your value plays, especially. But when we think about what a value play is going to offer to a lineup, typically what you want is volatility out of a cheap play. And I didn't think that there was volatility on Michael Penix. Clearly, because he's a quarterback. There's just not that much volatility when we look at quarterbacks. The scoring is relatively flat. They score somewhere between, most of the time, they score somewhere between 16 and 24 fantasy points. That being said, I also think that in order to play Michael Penix in this spot and say that he was going to be a cheap quarterback, you had to assume that he was going to have a regular quarterback role, which I think was a mistake by the field. I think that this was actually a projection mistake by most of the field.
What type of role would he have? Well, hold on. What type of role? He seemed to have a regular quarterback role to me.
Well, so when I say regular quarterback,
if they didn't have 2 pick sixes, he would have been on the field more, obviously.
Sure, but you got to think about the spot that they're going to be in. That's kind of my point here. I think that when people projected out Michael Penix Jr., what you were projecting out was you had to make the assumption that he was going to be throwing the ball a regular amount of times and be involved a regular amount for a quarterback. And in the circumstance that they were in, I thought that it was less likely that he was going to have a regular quarterback role in regular volume, and more likely that they would try to just run the ball a shit ton, use Bijan and Tyler Algier, and then kind of try to hide Michael Penix Jr.
Yeah, but that wasn't but you're wrong on that. They didn't do that.
Well, sure.
They ended up doing that because they were up because of 2 pick sixes, and they didn't need to use him. But that first series, he brought back 8 times.
Right, but let me finish this out.
I mean, he was 2 for 8 or something. I mean, it's not like he completed many passes, but they let him drop back and pass the ball.
Sure, they let him drop back until they get into the second half against a team like the Giants that can't score, and then it's much more likely that they are not going to continue with a regular game plan like that. That was the stance that I had. I thought that it was much more likely that Michael Penix would drop back somewhere between 22 and 25 times, and that they would instead run the ball considerably more than they have been with Kirk Cousins, which was true because of the circumstances around this game environment. At 4,500, I thought that it was much more likely that he scores somewhere between 12 and 16 fantasy points than 16 and 24. Now, when you phrase it like that, what you end up with is a $4,500 quarterback that doesn't really have the volume to compete with a quarterback like Anthony Richardson, with a quarterback like Caleb Williams. Both of these guys are still very cheap. Geno Smith, 5,700. All of these guys are cheap. And all of that to be said, I thought there were still underpriced tight ends to where you could still use double tight end and have a similar range of outcomes with more volatility, utilizing 2 tight ends and a regular quarterback rather than Michael Penix with a wide receiver or running back in the flex. I thought that what this really came down to was a range of outcomes for Michael Penix being narrow and lower than basically all of the other quarterbacks on this slate. Now, if you wanted to say in small field that you thought that Michael Penix would be 20% owned, I think that was about right. I think that made more sense. In cash games, he was an obvious play. You're going to play him in cash games. But in larger fields, I didn't think that the field was projecting the circumstance correctly. I liked Bijan Robinson a lot. I thought that he was probably one of the best plays on the slate, especially coming in at 10% owned. Did he do anything for me? No, because every running back scored fucking 40 points on this slate. But I thought that the game circumstance made Michael Penix a considerably worse play. So that's my whole thing here. And what it comes down to is just range of outcomes. And quarterback narrow ranges of outcomes. If that volume wasn't going to be there, I thought that it was very unlikely that he was going to outscore basically any other quarterback. And value plays at tight end, I thought were more valuable due to the volatility in larger fields. So that's my Michael Penix breakdown here.
What you need to do, James, is after the show, is after YouTube makes the captions for the the video for the transcript, turn on the closed captions and see where it didn't do the greatest of jobs, and it looks like you said something that's really.
I hope that it says Michael Penix Jr. over and over and over again.
Or just the field wanted to jam Penix in, right? Right, and then
look,
the field seemed to have a boner for Penix.
Yeah, look, I was all for riding Penix all day long, okay, at 10% ownership, but I wasn't going to ride a 20% Penix.
Right. You can't ride a Penix at 25%.
No, that's way too much Penix, dude. That is a drastically
It's a drastic amount of Penix.
I don't know anyone who would be happy with 20% Penix in their life. I really don't. So, yeah, I thought that was pretty.
This is where the Hims sponsorship or the Blue Chew sponsorship happens automatically. Yeah, the YouTube ads, if you monetize this video, they're going to put a commercial at some point, and the transcript will match it to Blue Chew or something.
I really hope that it does. That would be hilarious. Let's talk a little bit about ownership surprises. So you said that you were surprised by Kyler Murray. I had Kyler Murray at 9% owned. I was surprised that Anthony Richardson did not come in higher. I had Anthony Richardson.
No, Anthony Richardson didn't come in. I would have played it at this ownership. I would have played Anthony Richardson, Josh Downs lineup over Kyler Murray lineups.
Yeah.
I was never going to play Aaron Rodgers, so have fun. The 7% of people that played that. I don't know how you got up to Josh Allen, so good luck to you. I mean, he had his worst game of the season, so that's there. I was never going to play Aiden O'Connell. One of the things, my hot take on the Blitz show this week was that no player from the Jaguars-Raiders game would appear in the Millie winning lineup, and I believe that was correct.
Yeah.
Even though Brian Thomas Jr. could have appeared there, I guess. And he got there on one big 60-yard touchdown. But for the most part, I thought the ceiling of that game was I thought they were fine plays. Like you want to play these guys like Brendan Strange would be the only 3,500. How much does a tight end really need to get you? Mm-hmm. But I mean, people were looking to play Myers, Bowers, O'Connell lineups and looking to play Aiden O'Connell, and Mac Jones. Mac Jones with Brian Thomas and Brendan Strange. Like, get out of here. The game had a 40.5 total. Like they're too bad. They're two bad teams. The only guy I played in that game in GPP. And I only did it because of our computer overlords. I did it. I only did that. The thing is, as a heuristic, for GPPs that people still have not gotten on, but I used to talk about with Brandon Adams, because Brandon Adams was the one that pointed it out to me when I did the Advanced Sports Analytics show. He said if you do your research, if you run your stuff, said the highest ceiling lineups, that it may change now because of dynamics. This was a couple of years ago. The wide receiver ceilings are much higher than running back ceilings.
Yeah.
So it's much more valuable to get 5K running backs that score 20 than get a running back, than pay for a running back that can score 20.
Oh, right? That makes sense. Yeah.
So these 5K running backs are worth more when they score enough points that you're now able to get a Jamar Chase, a Puka Nacua, the more 8K wide receivers or high ceiling wide receivers. And this guy, for some reason, I'm assuming because they were favored and they didn't have that bad of a team total, was coming up as like, we looked at James Conner, Jahmyr Gibbs, Chase Brown, Bijan Robinson, at running back for these like high optimal rate running backs. Chuba Hubbard was up there. I played Chuba Hubbard, but I also played Alexander Madison, and he was 5% owned. And did I have any reason to play Alexander Madison other than he was 5,100 and the lead back of a team that was favored at home? So, like, why not? I mean, and if you ran Sims, like the top, like I was running stuff in Sim Labs, and it was just like all the usual suspects, and then like Alexander Madison and like 3% of lineup. I'm like, that's interesting. So I just like, okay, I need a cheap running back here. So I played Alexander Madison from that game. I did not play Patrick Taylor at 5,200. I did not play Patrick Taylor on FanDuel at 4,800. I played Debo instead. But if you did play Patrick Taylor, I think that's fine. Yeah. I think his ownership on DraftKings, if you would have told me he was 10% owned, I wouldn't have even, I didn't play him anyway, but 10% is way too owned for a guy that only had a prop of 44.5. When Chase Brown is 10% owned and Chuba is 10% owned, I know not as cheap, but Jerome Ford came in at 11% owned. Yeah. So that's why I look at my Alexander Madison 5,100 coming in at 5% owned. I straight up had Madison higher than those guys anyway, like higher than Ford and higher than Taylor anyway. So like getting him at half the ownership seemed, I played him, I think, in one or two lineups out of my 7. Yeah. Most of my lineups were Gibbs, Connor, Brown combination type of lineups. And then I'm replacing one of those with Chuba Hubbard, or replacing one of those. In the Seattle lineup, I replaced him with Aaron Jones at 6,400. Sure. But for the most part, I played the kind of chalky running backs, and Chase Brown is the only one that failed out of the bunch, really, for his price. Unfortunately, I had him in 4 out of 7 of my lineups. But, it could have easily been any of the other ones, and it's not like it would have mattered. I would have cashed 2 or 3 of the lineups instead of it being not cashing. It's not like I would have won.
I just ran a medium, very, very strong field over at Paydirt, and Alexander Madison came up in 2% of lineups. And that feels fine. It feels about right. He was projected for about 2% ownership, so that's whatever. Jerome Ford looked really good. I probably should have listened to this a little bit more. Jahmyr Gibbs, James Conner, Devon Kane, Jerome Ford. Probably should have listened a little bit more. Anyway,
you gotta listen to your own stuff. You're telling me you look at your stuff and you go, nah. That's what people did. That's what people did with Debo. Dude, Debo, I don't understand how Debo could project well and people still not play him. They just don't believe. They just think that the projection is broken because it's like any data previous to like 7 weeks ago is just irrelevant anymore.
Yeah, it's completely trash.
Debo's fat and he can't do anything, and they're not throwing him the ball, and he's done, and he's going to be a $3,200 a fifth wide receiver at some point for some other team, whatever. And then Debo just goes out and he seemed to look like Debo to me. Right.
Seemed just fine. Yeah, Debo was a sharp play. He was projected for 10%. Where did he come in? Lower than that, right?
7.5 in
Yeah.
the
Okay.
millie.
Running backs. Is there anything? Doesn't look like anything was surprising with running backs. I don't think.
No.
I thought Patrick Taylor coming in at 10% owned is a little bit higher than I expected, and I feel like an asshole for playing him in one of my lineups. I think everything looked fine here. Did you have inclination on Jonathan Taylor? I liked Jonathan Taylor, but I didn't pull the trigger on him.
I don't play that guy.
It's hard to play him.
It's right. James Cook is that. There's another one. These are the guys that if they beat me, they beat me. Just unless they were jelly. If you told me Jonathan Taylor was 5,300, I would have played him, obviously. But
sure. But at 7K, I mean, you're paying for basically a lot of volume and inefficiency.
I thought Chuba Hubbard was. I at the same price. I played. I mean, virtually. I mean, $100 difference. I played Chuba Hubbard for the main reason. One, Chuba actually projected better than Jonathan Taylor, and so many people don't play running backs from the same game, opposite teams in the lineups.
Mm-hmm.
And with James Conner being the second highest owned running back, close to 30%, I thought that would mute Chuba's ownership, and it did. So I played Chuba, especially after being chalked last week and failing. I'm not scared of the Cardinals defense, especially the rush defense. So who says that the Panthers can't do well here?
Well, we're not even playing Chuba for the defensive boost. He just gets really good volume. Like he
gets like 97% of the stuff. Actually got less. Actually, Blackshear came in much more in this game than he should have. And
right.
But I mean, obviously he scored at the end. He scored 2 touchdowns. He caught balls out of the backfield. I mean, James Conner got injured obviously towards the end of that game, so he didn't see the last quarter.
I mean, Chuba.
And by the way, Chase Brown's expected points on yesterday's game was as high as Gibbs and Conner.
Yeah, I had him project for 19.7. He projected really, really well. I didn't have a problem with Chase Brown. I didn't have a problem with any of the high-owned running backs. I thought that Chuba Hubbard, who I had projected for about 12% ownership, I thought he was a really good play. I even mentioned him because people wanted to play him last week when they probably shouldn't have. And then this week, if Carolina in an up-paced game against Arizona, and he's going to be 12% owned with the same projection and like a nominal price increase like that, he was really, really good play. I don't think that there was anybody who nailed it here. Jonathan Taylor, 42. Yeah, these there's no surprises at running back. Let's jump into wide receiver here. So anything that was a little bit weird for you at wide receiver? The highest owned wide receiver was Malik Neighbors at 22% owned. Keenan Allen coming in at 19% owned, I thought was surprising. I had him projected around 9%, but I did think that both Keenan Allen and DJ Moore would come in higher than I had them projected, so not that big of a deal. DK Metcalf at 12%, I thought was a little bit higher. Malik Washington at 11%, I thought was higher. And 4% on Tyreek Hill. There's no goddamn justice in this game for me to get a 4% on Tyreek Hill at 6,900 in a good game environment and have him fail. There's just, I'm pulling a downside of me. There's no goddamn justice in this game.
Well, you could play Justin Jefferson at 8,200 was 4% owned. He scored almost 40 points at wide receiver.
Yeah, which is fucking awesome. I had him in a lineup because I love that game environment. But Tyreek Hill just killing me. Oh, I got to listen to Dean, who has only said, oh, Tyreek Hill hasn't been good this year. He can't ever be good again. I should just listen to that. I should listen to him about Tyreek Hill, and you should listen to him about Kyler Murray. If somebody has not been good this year, they will never be good again. We should just stop playing these guys that have good track records and only listen to things that have happened this year.
Tyreek could have had a bigger game. Didn't he drop a touchdown or something?
No, it was tipped. It was tipped.
I should have still got it. I don't care.
I agree, and I fucking wish it would have happened, but it didn't. So I'm gonna say that it was tipped. I guess I don't care who I blame here, but I'm
perfectly fine fading Malik Neighbors at 22% ownership, playing for the lowest team total, worst team in the league. These are just the way. If the bad teams just do well, then they just do well. The Bears could have easily. I mean, it's not like the Bears could have easily just come out and just took a dump right on the field, and everyone would be sitting there with Keenan Allen and DJ Moore with each with single digits and going, what the hell? right? Could have easily, it didn't, but I mean, so that's why I take a look. Like all the highest owned, like take a look. The Giants had a 16-point implied team total. The Bears had like a 19.5-point implied team total. The Seahawks had a 19.5-point implied team total. The Raiders had a 21-point implied team total, right? The Jaguars had a 19-point implied team total. That's why I'm looking at all this going, Jamar Chase. No, there we go. Okay. Bengals, 27.5-point implied team total. Okay. I start looking down. I go, oh, Marvin Harrison. The Cardinals have a 26-point implied team total. It's like these are the guys that I won. Debo. The 49ers had a 23-point implied team total. So I was looking at like these guys.
Okay, hold on now. Because the team totals are relative to price. Keenan Allen's 5,300. Like
I know.
And
I want teams that score touchdowns. Obviously I don't think Keenan Allen's going to go like 9 for 150 and a touchdown.
No, I mean, clearly, yeah. But I mean, if you're looking, okay, but if you're comparing to team totals, you still have to. Let's be relative to price. Like if the Bears have a team total of 19 and all their dudes are 4,500, like who the fuck cares if it's a team total of 19?
Then why didn't we play Patriots?
Why didn't you?
Garbage cheap. Right?
Why didn't you?
Yeah, why? I don't know. Why everyone's rushing to play Keenan Allen at 5,300? Why aren't we playing Demario Douglas? Why aren't we playing John Booty had a big game? Why didn't we play him? We played him a couple of weeks ago, and he was chalked for no reason. I mean, like
it's all. My point is that, and I think that you agree with me that it's all relative to the price. Of course.
Keenan Allen scored a 45-yard touchdown. Did I hear it right? Did I see it right on Twitter? The Keenan Allen's been. It's not like Keenan Allen is young.
Yeah,
Keenan Allen was is a top receiver. He played for the Chargers. It's not like he has a long track record. Was that I think I saw that was his longest ever touchdown. 45 yards.
There's no way that was his longest ever touchdown.
I think that's what someone
Google it.
Is it fake news on Twitter or something?
It's probably, yeah. Well, did you find it on Twitter? It's probably fucking fake news.
Yeah, probably. Who knows? Right. But it feels like it should be true.
It feels like
it does. It feels like that if you told me that that 45-yard touchdown was his longest touchdown of his career, I wouldn't be shocked.
I wouldn't be shocked if it was true. I also think that Twitter is lying to you. So I guess my only point here is that you really do have to pay attention to team totals. And I will also say that the highest game total this week was 48.5. Like we had low game totals across the board. There were a lot of bad teams playing. I agree in general that you shouldn't stack bad teams. Like I wouldn't want to stack the Giants. I wouldn't want to stack the Jaguars or the Raiders. But
yeah, Malik Neighbors had 22% ownership, and it's not like anyone played Drew Lock.
No, I agree. Yeah. But like I in that instance, we probably should have stacked.
Right, you played Drew Lock, Malik Neighbors, Wan'Dale Robinson. Like Wan'Dale got like 14 targets or whatever.
Yeah.
On the next, it's only an 8-game slate next week. God, have you looked at the slate for next week?
No.
Oh, you're gonna because we have the Christmas game, 2 Christmas games.
Oh yeah,
right.
That's right.
So on Sunday, it's 8 games, 6 at 1 p.m. and 2 at 4 p.m. So it's only 2 late games, and I know I got to bring it up because I was because I always put together when the salaries come out, like what like a dummy lineup or whatever, so I can enter contests. And I was taking a look at the options that you have on this slate, and it's boy, they really just saved all the. They said, okay, who's going to be watching football the most? Well, they're going to be watching on Christmas. They're going to be watching on a Saturday or whatever the hell they're. Okay, you got the Jets and the Bills. Okay, that's not like awful. You got the Titans and the Jaguars facing each other. You got this is maybe not the greatest for fantasy, but the Packers Vikings.
Okay,
Packers,
that's a good one.
Right, that's a good one. But as far as like it's hard to play Packers, the Vikings, or whatever. Yeah. Then we got this is going to be the most popular game in DFS, by the way. This next game, and you're going to be like, really? It's the Raiders at the Saints.
Fuck.
In the Superdome, with everyone on the Saints being like free. And the Raiders being cheap, right? And then we got the Panthers at the Bucks, right? So you got that
could actually be a good game,
right? Then you got the Colts at the Giants.
Gross.
And if you don't think Anthony Richardson at 5,900 is going to be popular, I have a bridge to sell you. Then we got the Dolphins at the Browns.
Ugh.
And then the Cowboys at the Eagles, which most likely is going to be Cooper Rush versus Kenny Pickett.
So you just explained in detail why I stopped fucking playing NFL in week 17.
I mean, I'm looking at my lineup, and it's like, I literally put in a dummy lineup on in the spots there. It's like, okay, this guy's maybe a little too. This guy may be a value. I couldn't spend my salary. like the people that I'm like, oh, I can't play this guy at this price, and then it turns out that like I have like 1,400 left over because like either like when I'm looking at Alexander Madison at 5,600 as like, oh, that's a value run. Like the running backs on this slate aren't like nothing's good.
I mean, Chuba Hubbard's going to be like 1,000,000% owned.
Yeah, at 7K, and then you have Neighbors at 6,600. You got Evans at 7,500. I mean, you got.
Actually, you know who's going to be the mega chalk? It's going to be our boy Jonathan Taylor against the Giants. Because I don't know who else like on of that group. I guess maybe you could do Saquon Barkley, but do they even give a shit about that game? Yeah, that's going to be an awful slate.
The problem next week is like I think 4 out of 8 games are going to have sub 40 totals.
Yeah, no, it's going to be awful. This, by the way, people, is why I stopped fucking playing NFL in week 16. I'm not dealing with that shit.
And it's also week 17, and then after that week we get week 18, which is you basically take your projection model and you just go out to the wood chipper and you put it out of its misery because good luck projecting. You're going to see the injury report. It's like, yeah, half the team is sitting, and then this other team that has nothing to play for, they're going to play their starters, and 14 people are going to get hurt for no reason. Like it's going to be the wide difference is some team with a 26-point implied team total is going to have everyone out and everyone 3K, and then you're going to have to project what is the wide receiver 4 going to be the top target? Is the running back 3 going to be the workload run? Good luck projecting.
I will not be trying very hard. I got to be honest with you. So we joined the Tails marketplace with Odd Shopper, and that has been fun because now I'm posting a shit ton of bets. I posted a whole bunch of hockey. We're posting NBA. We'll do NFL tomorrow, but that has been nice, Jordan, because one of my problems is that I'm a workaholic. So I basically just dive into whatever it is that is the largest priority, and that has been DFS for a long time. But now that I have that,
dive in and get some tails.
Now I'm diving and getting tails. Now it's all about tails, baby. I'm diving in. I'm riding all of this Penix into the tails. That's the goal. So that's been nice though, because now I actually have to really focus in the mornings on NBA and NHL, and it's at a perfect time because I don't fucking want to focus on NFL at this point. I think next week I'm probably going to ramp up the MLB model now that we have had a bunch of trades come in and see what the off-season stuff looks like, and start getting ready for that. So this week, I hope people chase this fucking Millie Maker winning lineup for basically the rest of their lives. It'll keep everything nice and safe. Can I take a look at this lineup? Is it not going to let me? Why would it not let me take a look at this one? There we go. Okay. I hope that everyone forever chases this lineup. This lineup is very funny and very hilarious, and I hope that everyone chases it forever. It'll keep DFS nice and strong for a long time. Jordan, do you have any closing thoughts? Do you have any Christmas wishes? Do you have anything? How's your YouTube channel? The first couple things that you did?
Fine. I mean, go subscribe to youtube.com/Jordan Cooper. I'll be putting out some more stuff. Doing a weekly podcast where just me ranting and raving about stuff. Not just DFS, daily fantasy, poker, sports betting, everything. I mean, just whatever. The YouTube channel is more like I'm going to be doing a stream. Basically, I'm going to be doing a podcast, audio podcast once a week and a stream once a week. And the highlights from the stream will be like clips or whatever. And fun thing. It's fun things. Yeah. I'm not doing anything worthwhile. Anything worth like if you learn something, God bless you. Like fine, but whatever. Like for instance, last Saturday, last Wednesday, I we did a tier list of the best daily fantasy sweats.
Oh, that's good.
Okay. So stuff like that. So I like the stuff I have planned. Like this week, I'm not doing a stream because it's on Christmas. But once the season is over, we will do a tier list of the biggest DFS disappointments of the season and the biggest, the gems of the season as a tier list. And it's all DFS related. So basically, Kyler Murray probably ends up as an S tier disappointment, right? Basically, guys that week after week they go, oh, Kamara's going to be up there probably as a disappointment.
Yeah,
like guys that end up being 30% every week and then just bomb and just fail. So I'll go through results DB and we'll see, what are the highest owned aggregate disappointments and what are the lowest owned, guys that put up the most amount of points on given weeks. So like stuff like that. So like, we were looking for gifts for sports bettors, making fun of some list or something. Like it's that type of content. And every once in a while, there may be something that you learn from. But if you want to learn from anything, just go to the Theory of Daily Fantasy Sports, theoryofdfs.com, and pick that up. If you want actual structured learning, I'm done. I'm done with the learning. Like I'm done with I'm going back to my roots, James. I started back in 2015, 2016 by playing soccer DFS. I just created content where it's just me ranting and raving and just whatever, pissed off about stuff, and then eventually did periscopes on like, oh, this is the actual mathematical shit.
Yeah.
So I'm just going back to that. I'm commenting on stuff, right? Commenting on things. DFS is dead. Every we have to do the state of the DFS industry. We have to do the state of the sports betting. We got to do the state of everything. I got to comment on everything. I got to go over poker hands that I should have won that I didn't. Like stuff like that.
Going back to shit posting. I'm into that. I'm gonna start doing a podcast every week, going over the state of the world. Actually, that'll be fun. That'll be good.
State of the world. What? You don't want to get involved with that shit.
No, I like that stuff. I actually really enjoy that stuff. And I have thoughts and takes, Jordan, that are outside of the DFS sphere that I would like to put down.
And they have to come out because everyone is clamoring for them.
No, but I mean, I would like to put them down. I'm clamoring for myself. I am clamoring for my own God complex.
You don't want to know my takes. My takes.
What you're allowed to talk shit about everything. Why can't I put my thoughts out in the ether?
Now you're gonna get involved in like fucking politics, Twitter, and people fucking.
I probably won't get involved in politics.
Right. Well, that's the point. That's what I thought you were talking about. Your takes about the world.
I'm talking about the state of the world, not fucking politics, brother.
What state of what world? What world?
So I have a lot of thoughts on kind of like the way that young men are struggling right now. I have a lot of thoughts on that.
Oh no, you're gonna be one of those people?
No, I'm still here doing this shit with you.
Right. You're going for the right-wing grift? Is that what you're doing? Young men are being persecuted. Young straight white men are the targets.
God forbid a man have thoughts outside of his DFS
supplement company or something. You're going to be one of those people?
No, I care a lot about real talk. As a father, I care a lot about young men in this world. And how to be a better father, I think, is important, and how to take care of people around you. Obviously, people don't give a shit about that in this context. Okay, if you want to catch that kind of stuff.
Most of the time, people that start out that first sentence that you said is that you care about young men. Is that it ends up being that the word that we know it's not 1952 anymore, and why can't we go back to the women being in the kitchen?
Okay. So here, if you want to hear how I don't think that fucking way, you can tune in on Wednesday. That's when I'm going to start doing that. Jordan clearly doesn't give a shit about it, and that's fine. But obviously, go pick up Theory DFS if you have not. It's evergreen content from me and Jordan. It's how to play DFS the right way. If you want to go find the Paydirt group over on the Tails Marketplace over at OddsShopper, you can do that. You can use Paydirt33 to get 33% off your first month. We're posting 20 plus props, picks, sides, stuff like that every single day, as well as some DFS content, which there's not enough of on the Tails Marketplace. If you have not gotten a subscription over at Paydirt DFS, you should do that. We have monthly, weekly, daily, and yearly subscription prices available to fit any of your needs or wants. And if you have not found me and Jordan over on Twitter, you should probably do that. I mostly just ship post these days and get Jeremy to be fucking mad at me about engagement farming, and Jordan doesn't post at all. So Thank you guys for
I
tuning
post
in.
my stuff. I post what I need to post.
Yeah, well, yeah. Okay, so you don't post anything that is just thoughts because you think that anything outside of thinking about DFS and shit posting is
No,
worthless.
I mean, if I have something worth saying, I say it. I read
You
everything.
hardly ever post anything on. I follow you on Twitter. You hardly
I
ever post
retweet. I would like if you that I don't see a tweet about this stream, I would have retweeted it, but you didn't even fucking do that.
That is not fucking true. I can show you. Hold on.
That's nice. Where's my where's my mention? I don't see it.
Right there. Hold on.
Well, I'm going live with @Blender HD, whatever, like that.
Right there.
So I can
Look at that.
Yeah, but where how do I know about it?
You fucking follow me on Twitter.
Yeah, but you're supposed to include my I'm going.
Okay, fine. Okay, you've got me there. I did not tag you on Twitter.
You didn't
I'm sorry.
tag me, right? So how am I supposed
general
to
etiquette that
innately pay attention? It's like I got to have notifications on for James McCool to make sure whenever James posts, I gotta be breaking news.
It
gotta
sounds
cut into
like
the
maybe you
broadcast.
should do that so that you know when I fucking retweet the stream. Or you're in the fucking Discord and I tagged everyone and said we're going live, and then there was
I don't in Discord people abuse that everyone, so I just disable that.
Okay. So you're right. So if I tag you specifically,
yeah, I will come. If you tagged me, I would have saw it. Yes.
Okay. All right.
Not add everyone, dude. There are some Discords that people just I don't know. The administrators give people like everyone could do it at everyone. No. Make it that only like an admin could do it, and then you have some admins that at everyone is like just like I'm having toast for breakfast. It's like what? Why did you have to let everyone know about that?
No, only me and the mods have the ability. I think actually only I have the ability to add everyone in
Good. I also have my Discord DMs to be friends only. I used to get like 700 million fucking DMs from it. Like, it doesn't matter. It's like, well, you can't message me on Discord. You could. It's open on Twitter. People want to DM me on Twitter. I mean, most of the time my DMs are crypto scams and fucking cam girl phishing requests but whatever. But you could do that anyway. I mean, that's fine.
Yeah.
Everything's successful. I thought you were going to talk about the world that way. Everything's
I will talk about the world
turning into successful.
I actually one of my notes is how anybody affords anything or is happy about anything right now. I absolutely.
Are you, James? Are you happy about anything?
I live a very good life. Actually, I'm really.
Your take is everything sucks and no one's happy, and you're like, well, are you? Well, like, no, actually, I'm pretty good.
The general. I will talk about this on Wednesday. You can tune in on Wednesday. I'll talk about a couple things. That'll be one of the things I talk about.
I got my Christmas decorations up behind me. I mean, I'm in a good mood.
You do have, yeah. Actually, I need to actually start putting up some fun things behind me. My cats have destroyed my couch, which is why the blanket is covering it right now. Nobody fucking. What are we talking? We've been fucking ranting for 5 minutes. Thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate it. This has been Mondays with McCool. I appreciate all of you. If you need to find us, you can find anything that we've mentioned in the last fucking 5 minutes while we have just been ranting. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. Hit me up on Twitter and the Discord if you need anything, and I will talk to you on Wednesday when I talk about things nobody cares about. Okay, bye. See you later.